Ignore the crazy hair, I don't really know what's going on. Also, I realized that first time I recorded this video, I wasn't hitting record at all, so this is take 2 of this video. Hi everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. I'm Laura, and today I wanted to have an honest chat about productivity and how people are doing, inspired by some of the conversations that I've had lately with the people around me. As a lot of people have been struggling with productivity, finding focus, and generally sticking to what they need to do during this time. I also wanted to honestly share how I'm doing and how I've been dealing with some of my lack of productivity. So at least I hope that this conversation is helpful in some way, shape, or form. But really bear with me as I kind of work through my productivity and really the lack thereof. Okay, so my productivity is really tied to how bored I am. If I feel bored, I'm prone to seek out other distractions. That could be Twitch, YouTube, shopping, doing literally anything besides the work I need to do at that given moment. I also really know that the key to my productivity is just truly pushing through that single point of boredom. Otherwise, if I don't do that and I bite the apple of Twitch or YouTube or shopping, then that boredom blossoms into this huge flower of distraction, and it basically becomes literally impossible for me to recover from for the rest of the day. That basically point of distraction has just thrown off my entire day, and even when I try to recover from it by doing my typical routine of how I try to get in the flow, it almost usually never works. So despite knowing that this is the key, I still have a really hard time being productive. I want to talk through some of my thoughts from my habits pre-pandemic and also post-pandemic, or I guess during this pandemic. So pre-pandemic, it's not like life wasn't filled with tons of distractions anyways. We had Twitch and YouTube and online shopping galore, but I really found that when I was moving myself to physical locations, there was a whole world of difference in how I was going about my work. I was able to actually have particular times for focused work. In-person office hours meant that I was actively learning and working on a particular assignment at that given time at a particular location and space. It really did set a mood to say, we're actually supposed to be working on homework right now, not just chatting and doing whatever. Similarly, going to the office for an in-person internship, my productivity was a lot higher than it was at my previous internship, which was remote. There was a lot more pressure to actually be doing the right and productive thing than the non-productive thing. My productivity was at its lowest in the office when I brought in non-work things into the conversation, such as homework or playing chess. This is a true anecdote. There are lots of chess games being played at that internship. So for me personally, a lot of my productivity comes from spaces where I'm coded to be working and my body knows, or at least my mind, something instinctually, it knows that this is not a time to be randomly scrolling through Amazon buying dog toys. This isn't a huge surprise though, since there's lots of research on this point, but I feel like it really does strongly affect my motivation and also my desire to just be doing work. Way back in high school, a lot of my time was about hitting Starbucks or the local cafe and just grinding out some work. The good old days where you can actually sit in a cafe and lounge around and do work at the same time. Good times. So a lot of my life has been fueled by the need to be productive, but also on reflection at pivotal points when it actually mattered, I was always seemingly distracted and unwilling to work. So this built up a need for me to start working early and also as soon as possible, so it was fine for me to not be working at the last minute. This applied pretty well academically. I was always getting my work done early, turning in homework as soon as possible, but this really didn't apply so much non-academically. Growing up, I played piano for nearly 10 years, but I honestly wasn't that great because I didn't dedicate myself to practicing. Even when I had a lesson the next day, that would probably be the first time I had practiced that entire week. Looking back, I'm pretty ashamed of it, and it feels like I squandered a lot of those 10 years by just not being as great as I could have been. Similarly, in high school, I was part of the speech and debate team, and a lot of my debate research time just turned into random nonsense conversation time. Looking back now, I'm really curious why this is, and I hope that after doing a little bit more soul searching and learning about how I work and what makes me productive, I hope that I can kind of figure out why this was the case. But fast forwarding to the present now, there's really a constant innate voice telling me to be productive, be productive, be productive. And when I'm not productive, obviously this little voice nagging in my head makes me feel bad, but I would just find some sort of distraction and it pushes away that voice, such as tabbing between every single channel on my Discord, even though half of them don't even pertain to me. Honestly, cycling through every single channel on my Discord is a really bad habit, and I definitely don't encourage you to get into doing that. But these are really the kind of distractions that I'm facing now, so let's talk more about the present. Many of these same habits can still be applied. I can move myself to a different space in my apartment, such as the dining table or the counter or the couch, But a lot of these spaces have been coded for me to do something else. For example, the kitchen is the place where I cook and where I get hungry and make food, so I just end up getting a snack and not really doing much. The couch is a place where I spent more time watching Hulu, Netflix, and Disney Plus than I like to admit, so that's also not such a great candidate for being productive. I've also tried different things like Pomodoro, time blocking, bullet journaling, scheduling out my time hour by hour, and trust me, I've watched tons of different videos on YouTube about productivity and really habits to build that productivity. Of course, I'll make any meetings that I have to go to and hard deadlines and work responsibilities, but in terms of actually setting up proper working hours that I can stick to and find myself being productive, that has been profoundly difficult and hard to accomplish for me. The instant boredom hits, I'm switching between windows, trying to desperately get something to stick, checking different Discord channels, and seeing if there's anything important for me to check up on my email. Really, it's bad. Even when I'm working on YouTube videos, something that I am really excited about, it can feel like a drag to get started working on a video. Not to say that I don't love it, but sometimes the desire to film a video is incredibly low. Once I'm in it though, I'm excited to continue working on it and doing more with it. So one thing that I've heard a lot about but not actually done too much research into is something called the flow state. I really want to read a book called Deep Work, I think, and also another just called Flow, that describe how the flow state really applies. But simply put, the flow state is describing moments of total absorption when you become so focused on the task at hand that everything else falls away. This is a quote taken from the Flow Research Collective about what is the flow state, and I think that the flow state is something that's really crucial to helping me figure out how I can be more productive. The main thing though is that I know that once I actually dedicate myself to something and something does stick, then I'm fine to keep working on it. If I start my day off right, I block out distractions, I do my ritualistic morning routine of creating my matcha latte, then I'm pretty much good to go if I set myself up on the right foot. But again, like I mentioned earlier, if I start myself on the wrong foot and I click on a single distraction, then there goes a couple hours of my day. Honestly, the flow state thing was kind of tangential. I'm not really sure where to go with it, but if I do more research about flow state and it's really interesting, then I'll definitely try to make a follow-up video to this one. But back to the whole productivity, working from home kind of thing. So working from home versus working from home in a pandemic, I really wonder if in a year into the pandemic, does this really still apply? I mean, yes, on the surface level, we are still in a pandemic and forced to work from home. So yes, we are working from home in a pandemic. But for me, I feel like a year in should really have been the time where I figure out how to get shit done. And it just hasn't happened for me, I guess. If I find things that do honestly work for me in terms of tips and tricks, then I'll definitely share. There are a few tricks that I'm currently trying that I'd love to share if these habits end up sticking for me and really pulling me back into being my productive usual self. The main thing that I really want to point out though is that not everyone is being productive 100% of the time and that it's okay to take downtime. I know that this seems incredibly paradoxical given everything that I've literally just said about my lack of productivity and how it makes me feel bad, but I think having scheduled downtime is one factor to recuperating your innate productivity. When you know that you have time for downtime and you don't have to be productive, then it really kicks yourself to say, okay, well, if this isn't the time to be productive, then when is the time to be productive? I don't know. I'm basically just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks, but that idea kind of makes sense in my head for me. If you have a similar story or any tips or tricks that you'd like to share, I'd love to try them out, so please leave suggestions in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you all next time. I know that it's hard being productive and staying productive, but I know that you've got it in you and that we can all turn it around. Just take things one day at a time and slowly building up habits. I'll see you all next week for the next video. Bye.